Good day, this is Mikhail Tank. This is the Archetypal Mosaic in its 11th season. And as Samhain approaches, which is a new year for magic workers, I'd like to share with you my upcoming 2025 art projects and also discuss the 2024 art projects. Kind of like an audio diary, creative audio diary. The first thing I'm going to do is read a prose or poem that I wrote early this morning, which will be a bonus track to my upcoming 2025 album called Living in a Subjective World. This bonus track is called The Best of Your True Self. Some people grow from stems of insecurity. Others create a false yet attractive persona. Underneath the complex of inferiority is a deep, dense emptiness that may be resolved via soul. The best of your true self is the golden way, a parallel road that allows for love of others and self. I've noticed that in all my relationships, personas fly to the ground, but those I respect are the best of their true selves. This came from a unconscious, cumulative amount of elements that I had to process over the past week and a half. And I didn't know how to respond to certain things, and I didn't know how to kind of even accept certain information that was kind of negative that came towards me. And what I allow myself to do is, instead of forcing responses and stuff like that, I put it into my psyche and I sleep on it, I live on it, and then in a few days, or in this instance a week and a few days, I think 9 days it took, and this basically is a response to certain things that I had to deal with. And I sent this response specifically to where it needed to be sent, along with adding it to my project. So the interesting thing about this project, the album is called Living in a Subjective World 2025, and the show, which is almost the same as the album, is called Transmute Darkness into Light. And I've already recorded actually 3 versions of the album, but I think there may be more versions, in the sense that there was a draft version, then there was a completed version, but I didn't feel it was completed. And then I rewrote and re-recorded kind of the finalized version. I felt that feeling of, okay, it's complete. But this feels like the right bonus track. I actually recorded the bonus track this morning when I wrote the poem, and I'm going to decide how to do that later, because it's not mixed or mastered yet. Actually, it's in the process right now with the musicians to create the backing tracks and do some mixing and mastering. So it's in process. And I think I'm going to add a couple of bonus tracks, but this is definitely something that fits exactly into the theme of the project. The show Transmute Darkness into Light will premiere through a beautiful festival in the southern hemisphere, but it will premiere worldwide via their web. And my show for this will actually be kind of like almost the same thing that I did in 2009 as the very first artist ever to have done a virtual ticketed event through the Edinburgh Fringe, the biggest Fringe festival. And the BBC, I had 3 articles written about it. 1 radio interview and 2 articles, so 3 in total. Was one of the top 10 strangest locations for a show, which of course now it's totally non-strange. It's just like an everyday thing. And then there was an article written about how I received a letter from Her Majesty, God bless her soul. What a sweet, amazing lady she was, about kind of my excitement to do the show and to do the BBC interview, the radio interview. So there's an article written on the BBC and the top 10 strangest locations for a show and the radio show. So, okay. So the show will be like a video format, which will be accessible and available worldwide through this festival. The festival will be announced at a later time when all the promotional stuff has been compiled and they have their own PR people, and I'm very excited about that. It's a place I love. It's a place I've been to. Okay. So what I'd like to do first is to read the track list from the upcoming record, which is tentatively scheduled to be the same exact track list as the show, of course in the video form. Subjective. 1 second. Okay. So here's the track. So here's a little bit about the project that I wrote earlier this year as I began conceptualizing it. Living a Subjective World is a fully independent and thus uncensored project in music-written video show formats. The companion show is titled Transmute Darkness into Light. And like several of my previous records have had books that came out, like this year's Royal Dragon book and album came out back in April of 2024. So this one will have a companion book too. We're living in a world where people force their opinions, views, and securities and the way they wish to be perceived by others, often utilizing wish fulfillment, fantasy, and unresolved complexes to gain validation and some form of external individuation. Subjectivity has become more important than objectivity, and that is the Achilles heel of our times. My original Dark Soul Theater approach will be to look at these issues, to show various artistic forms of this reality, and to offer a healing solution to this great communal wound. And indeed, this fits with the prose I wrote today. They're very, very similar. Here's the track list has changed as well. It's so exciting, so interesting to watch this kind of form itself. Because my original track list, I started writing when I was in Fujiya in Hakone, and classic location. And actually, John Lennon stayed there. Albert Einstein stayed there a long, long time ago, before, obviously. And the Imperial family stayed there. And it was a place that I started writing this project in. And because there's such a great vantage point in Hakone, you could see so far down, and the vantage point is a great place for the concept of objectivity, kind of a microcosm of it, and at least what two eyes can see. And so I started writing there, and I wrote maybe an album's worth there, but then I decided which only 2 of the tracks from Hakone are going to be here. The 2 that were the most heartfelt, I would say. No mind was used. It was like Psyche and Soul. Literally, I didn't think about the 2 tracks I wrote, which are When Difficult Times Arise and The Fourth Wall. I didn't think about them. I felt them. The other ones I thought about. And that's what I decided to do in this album. All the writings that I wrote from my mind, I removed. All the writings that I wrote from my soul without thinking, I kept. That's why there's so many kind of like an evolution that happened here. And the interesting thing is that this last piece I wrote this morning, also, like I mentioned earlier, I put the issues into my mind, into the psyche, and then this was the natural result, just spilled out, as the strongest pieces always do. There's no pauses. It's just take your phone, take a pen, here it goes. Um, the kind of the completed track listing at this point is Position of Power, Living in a Subjective World, Forever 30, When Difficult Times Arise, Artifice, also known as Energy Hunters, Reverse All Curses, The Fourth Wall, Photosynthesis, Transmute Darkness into Light, and now this bonus track. I actually have another bonus track I recorded in Japan, I think in March, and that was a really powerful piece that also just flew out of me. And thankfully, because I am releasing this through the new label, Dark Oxygen Records, I can do what I want, meaning that the mastering for the 9 tracks is going to be kind of united in one way. And then the mastering for the bonus tracks, I think I'm going to do myself. I love that because the bonus tracks, they're very raw and kind of I did them after, or actually the one I did in Japan I did way before the album, and then this one I did after the album. So I'm going to add them as raw variants, kind of. I'm not sure how yet, but it's going to be pretty cool for it not to have perfect mastering through the whole album. Basically, the main album is mastered, and the bonus tracks are raw. That's the only kind of raw I like, and is in performance, nothing else. Okay. There's some merchandise available. I mean, it's a little hokey. The merchandise is basically always through Bonfire at this point. But we got t-shirts and all this other stuff. The image, the cover image, I wanted it to be... I sent this over to the cover artist. She did a great job. She always does. That's something I cannot do, which is... I always come up with the cover art and the titles and the work, but I work with certain people who, for example, do the editing and the mastering and do the cover art. Those are things that I simply can't do well. I've done them, but I do them poorly. The rest of the stuff is all completely natural and the true talent, and then this is the stuff that I need assistance with. And I'm very happy to work with different people who can help my vision. So the cover art is basically me in a kind of like a snow globe or future fortune-telling crystal. And then the world, microcosm, micro, and then the world right above me. It also looks like the moon, so... Or it could be the world under me and the moon above me, or it could be the moon and the world, whatever it is. But it definitely shows the smaller world from within and the bigger world out. But it also specifically focuses on the smaller world, which is the concept of how subjectivity can cloud life. Of course, all of us are naturally subjective since we're ourselves. But the fact that the concept of extreme subjectivity and extreme blinders and constantly looking at things only from a limited point of view really creates strife. There has to be a balance between being objective and subjective. There just has to be, I think. I can't speak for others, but for me, there has to be. So in this record, the difference between the record and the show is this, because the show is focusing on... the show is focusing on the result, which is creating light from darkness, which is something I've done since I was 12 years old and did my first copyright 13, a year after I came up with the Dark Soul Theater, completely naturally. So I've done that all these years through my art, but specifically in this show, the show focuses on the result, which is the light that comes from the trauma. But the album focuses on the issue instead of the result. So it's a slightly different focus, and it makes sense because the show is the completed element with the visuals, and the album is the kind of only audio and spatial and psychic and psyche element, which does not contain visuals in itself unless they're in your mind's eye. So let's see. It's interesting also that some of the tracks have had several variations to them. For example, Reverse All Curses, which I really like the way that sounds. It originally, I wrote it the year before, or 2 years before, and it was about, I don't remember the name of that version of it, but it had to do with sending back anything that was sent forth with bad intentions. So if somebody sends you, for example, an evil eye or a curse or or whatever, that whole thing was specifically about sending it back ASAP. This one is a little bit different. It's a little bit more refined. It's still very powerful, but it has a little bit more more depth and a few more layers to it. So it's not just like back and forth tennis. It's I don't even know what the word is, but it deals with it in a more sophisticated way, perhaps. I'm not sure that's the right word. Anyway, the fourth wall is really what's also fascinating, because this is all taking shape naturally. That's what's cool about it. Is when I'm looking at it, it's organically taking shape. The last 3 tracks they go from spirituality to God to light. And the one right before, basically from artifice to Reverse All Curses, though that's the climax of the record. It goes from something very kind of what drinks your energy in life to clearing yourself and regaining your power to connecting, and then to really transmuting. So it's a full cycle of self-evolution. Okay, now I'm gonna talk a little bit about the show. So when the show information becomes available, I will share it. At the moment, it's still in process by the festival, so I'm going to release that information the same time they do, so that it's united in a way. And can't wait to see what they do with the publicity and also with how they make it all happen. I love that. That's also very exciting to just kind of see how a show or a festival takes shape. It's just very exciting to see people do things that they love to do. About the show, so I released a small mini sample called The Transmute Darkness into Light, a Personal Crown Chakra Meditation. One take, no script, no AI, all raw or all real and authentic. Authenticity is not a 2024 thing for me like it is for many artists. It's a thing I've done since I was a kid. It's just who I am. And I just also want to say that even though I have a startup called Magatama AI, which is all about kind of protecting humanity and making sure that AI doesn't impede on the human condition, and has EAI, emotional artificial intelligence, and also self-awareness in a protective, safe way for people. All of my art, all of it, from writing to producing and creating, performing, the books, the Kindle editions, all the lyrics and poems and prose, nothing has ever used AI or anyone or anything. It's always been 100% from me, mostly from my soul, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes from my head. I definitely prefer the pieces that just flow from the soul. The pieces that come out from the head, I just add them to the book sometimes. Otherwise, I just kind of like leave them in the suitcase. But nothing has ever been affected by AI, and I don't want that mixture. I keep those things completely separate. So this meditation is available for your listening pleasure through one of the other episodes. Let's see, what else can I say? Again, this concept from the title, I've been doing it for over 30 years, since I was a kid and a teenager, and I just really like the title. It has a lot of imagery and power, and it has a very kind of useful, like when I take that title into my mind's eye, I literally, a light comes out of my hand. And I'm not talking about a flashlight or anything like literal. I'm talking about that emotion, that feeling, that internal image. So because I can utilize the title to create the light, I know that I can utilize the title to make the show. It has that kind of a power for me, so it's more than valuable. Okay. Next. Oh, and I'll do a little commercial in the spur of the moment. For those who may appreciate somebody who's been a true artist since I was very young, and who travels, experiences life, appreciates the nectar of life and creates out of it in order to inspire, help, and heal, and elevate, I definitely accept monetary gifts for this purpose. You can go to my website, MikhailTang.com, and there's a link there, Gift to Mikhail, and there's a couple of options you'll see there, a PayPal, Cash App, and some other stuff. So I definitely accept that fuel that helps me create, and that is my life's purpose. So a few other projects for next year that I'm working on. There's a book that I haven't started writing it. I've written 3 mini kind of concepts about it. They're all a little bit different. And I know where I want to write this book, and I know that I want to write it next year for that fresh energy. I don't want to kind of... some of the things have to be done next year for them to have that feeling. So I'm waiting to write that book at a certain time. I know approximately when I want to write it, but it's going to take its own shape. So it's called Energy of Taboo. Another thing that I'm excited about is I've done only a few cover versions, because my cover versions they don't repeat the artist, because I'm not a traditional singer. So, but I do love many songs, and so one of them is Another Said Love Song by the elegant Toni Braxton. I've loved that song since I moved to California in '93, and so I got mechanical license, just a cover license. So one of my very talented music friends is creating the cover instrumental for me. He does a great job. I did that with Walking in the Rain, which I recorded in Ankia House in Ginza. And I also did that for Icicle, a song that was very important for me growing up. And there were a few other things too, but this is going to be another Said Love song, and I definitely want to record it next year, maybe in a new studio, because for the fresh vibe. So those are the main four. They're always like the main, and then there's supplementary projects. Sometimes the supplementary become the main, but a few other things are. So there's the TV show Pitch Personification, which I would love to do, like a psychological reality show. Time is Different When We Sleep, the film version from my, was it 2008? What year did I release that track? Or 15? There was a track called Time is Different When We Sleep, which is actually my favorite track that I've ever done. I think I released it in 2015 or 16. I can't remember. But, I did this very atmospheric, it's not really a music video, but it's like a visual, very kind of a visual video that takes you into a zone. And then so I want to make a film about that. Then also in 2026, God willing, if everything goes well, I'd love to do a multimedia project called Logical Fallacies, and then also do an alchemical project. Those are things for the following year. And now I will also discuss this year's projects. This year has been so fulfilling, and I'm so grateful for it. The main project, closest to my heart, is called The Royal Dragon and the Rhythm Within. And I recorded the album, I think in a period of 2 hours, with a wonderful group of people, 3 engineers, at Victor Studio, which is part of JVC Victor in Shibuya. What a spectacular day that was. And the album is very, very, very close to my soul. It has certain tracks which are the closest. And Soul Vase is also a video visualizer. I'm not sure how to say it. It's not really a music video. There's only one music video from that record, and that was done in New Zealand. And Soul Vase is really in my favorite place on a beautiful sunny day. And it's just one shot of me walking on the veranda by the lake with the sun shining. The whole purpose of that is, if you're just seeing it without context, it's like, okay, so what? But the whole context of the track is that you have this soul vase within you, and you realize, you feel where's your energy leaking from, and you patch it up, and you fill your soul vase with sunlight, and you regain energy in your life. It's a very powerful image that I utilize, that I've created due to my own need for energy and survival. And so when I walked over there on the veranda, that's how I felt. Every step was gaining energy into my soul vase. And that's why I did that video, because as simple as it is, when I view that video, I get a bunch of energy. So it's real. It's not just some random stuff. That's the place that I love, that fills me up. And that's what I had to capture for this project, because that's the truth. I did a little drawing, and that's another one of my things that I've done since I was a kid. However, I would not say that I have great gifts in that at all. Kind of limited. But I did a drawing there from their calligraphy museum, and it represents the soul vase. It's very simple, but it really represents it. The book came out, as I mentioned, in April as well, also called The Royal Dragon. Later was the music video, an actual music video. I wouldn't say it's not a big, I don't have any big budget, period. So it's a very low budget music video, but it's very authentic, very real, and it takes place in Auckland, New Zealand. And then I made a family film called Future Citrine, which is very important because citrine is the stone of the Scorpio, and that's very special. Then there was a video visualizer called Riding Along the Full Moon, also on the exact road where I drove with someone who's very important to my life. The exact space, the exact road, that's where that video visualizer is from. So everything that I did in this album, there's no substitution. There's no secondary stuff. There's no this resembles that. No, it's that. Everything that's there is the real thing. And that's why that project is so, it kind of makes me wiggle, because it, when I see these things, I feel that energy that brought me love and joy and everything else. It gives it to me and I'm also gifting it exactly the way that I felt it to others. Okay. There's a few short stories on Kindle, including Male Witch, The Pine Needle, Spider Stockings. All of these are Kindle editions. Some of them are audio editions. Some of them are just Kindle editions. And then there's another track called Photosynthesis, which is also from the upcoming project. And that also just spilled out of me, and I did the video visualizer up on a mountain overlooking the trees, and the sun was shining. It was exactly what I mean, that's the whole point of photosynthesis. The sun feeds the plants, but the analogy there has nothing to do with plants. It has to do with people and spirituality. But anyway, take a listen. Let's see what else. Well, those are the main things. There were other things too, but those are just the main things. What's really important about the work that I do is it's 100% real. And thank God that nobody shelves my things and tells me what's not going to sell and crap like that, because I've had 3 big opportunities to kind of sell out and become I'm like a I'm like a shadow celebrity. Sometimes, if you Google me, you'll see all this stuff about me and stuff, but at the same time, when you meet me on the street, nobody knows who I am, which is, I love it. But I've had 3 opportunities in my life earlier where I could have jumped on the fame train, and I just couldn't do it, because I didn't want to break, and I didn't want to be fake, and I didn't want to push something out of myself, like maybe 10% of myself, and exaggerate it, where and leave the other 90% behind. I just can't do that stuff because it breaks a person. I have to be 100%. I'm 100%. And all of this work that I'm discussing, every single project is 100%. 100% of all of me. And therefore, I don't know what the words are, but it just feels like I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing my life's work. Even though, financially it's dismal. But spiritually, it's exceptional. So, I think that kind of encapsulates all of these art projects, at least for now. Holiday blessings.